So last year, like you mentioned, there was a bill that was introduced that was House Bill 999 that really constructed an entirely new regulatory and licensing scheme that roped virtually every business related to precious metals in under the state's Money Transmitter Act. What that means practically is that now these, mom and pop coin shops, these small businesses all over the state will suddenly, overnight and without notice, have to comply with bank-like signups, registering, onboarding all of your customers, keeping sensitive information on hand. Suddenly, this is a massive privacy issue. So we saw this at the time, and honestly, Sound Money Defense League has been fighting these fights around the country since 2014. And when we saw this bill in Florida, at the time, there were 65 other bills that I was tracking that we were following around the country. And we read the bill and thought, there's no way Florida would ever pass something like this. It erects an entirely new structure. It's an invasion of privacy. Surely the industry isn't asking for this. Sound money advocates aren't asking for this. There's no way that the state would pass this. And unfortunately, I was wrong. It was a couple of motivated vendors who really put their shoulder behind this thing and ultimately got this passed. Of course, this is, in no uncertain terms, the government coming and putting its finger on the scale in the market for the benefit of, a few select vendors. And it doesn't make sense. And it exposes the entire rest of the industry and all of their customers to, an entirely new compliance regime, but also real practical questions of privacy. So the bill creates an entirely new regulatory regime. So what this is doing is, I guess, to be fair, there was the one sentence line in there about, gold and silver are legal tender in Florida and they're not subject to taxes, which are good policies. They're policies that the Sound Money Defense League supports. The state removing impediments to people buying, selling, using gold and silver. Those are positive things. But what we have here is an encroachment of the state coming into this place and creating new regulatory rails that impose an unprecedented mandate on these businesses. That literally there's nothing like this in the country that exists. And so all of this is a massive imposition on businesses all over the state, most of which have no idea that this is coming.
Right. And aren't there over 22,000 of those businesses in the state of Florida?
That's interesting. I haven't heard that number, but I wouldn't be surprised if, you're talking about every single business that sells precious metals, anyone who buys and sells precious metals.
And now my challenge to people watching this is please reach out to your legislators, reach out especially. And when I say you can send an email. If you send an email, he may or may not read it, but there may be somebody there basically keeping score. Okay, this many people said no, please veto HB 1311. This many are in favor of it. So one last word. If you were to talk directly to our fabulous governor, Ron DeSantis, what would you say to him? Talk to him right now, I'm going to send this clip to him. What would you say?
Governor DeSantis, I really appreciate your commitment and your dedication and your recognition of sound money and your understanding that sound money is the answer to the problem that we have of America's broken money. But this bill, House Bill 1311, is not the way forward. This is a bill that was not consulted or approved by industry stakeholders or sound money experts. I'm sorry to tell you, you were deceived. You were sold a bill of goods. But the fortunate thing is there are things that Florida can do, and we would be happy to work with you on positive legislation that promotes sound money, promotes business, promotes privacy, and ultimately promotes an individual to readopt their own gold standard if they want to. So whenever you're ready, I am available at your convenience.